Welcome everyone to the V4S Mobile Overview. My name is Kishore Mandyam and I will be walking through the app itself. I have a bunch of slides. We have to start with slideware, right? That's very important. So I'm going to start with the slides and then I'm going to go forward doing the rest of the stuff, which in terms of demo, in terms of questionnaire, Q&A, so on and so forth. We'll do all of that. I've got 30 minutes scheduled. I can go over if we need to, and we'll take it as we go. We are recording this webinar, so if you want a recording at some point in time, I can come back and give you a URL. And if you have questions along the way, if thoughts, chat, raise your hand and ask me, and I will walk you through my response. All right, let me start off. V4S. This is an add-on to Volunteers for Salesforce in Salesforce. Volunteers for Salesforce is now part of the NPSP, and so a lot of you will probably have it because you upgraded. If not, you need to upgrade because then you will get access to what we're able to do. What are we able to do? And why is what we do interesting, important? We'll talk to that. I will talk through the two varieties of V4S Mobile that we have, the personal and the kiosk versions. We'll talk about some degree of customization and configuration. There's not a lot to speak about there, but we will do that. And I will take questions that I can answer along the way. You guys all run volunteer organizations. You have a variety of issues to deal with, fundraising, people, resources, everything you can think of. Our focus with V4S Mobile is really on the volunteer. Because the volunteer gets the mobile app, either on his or her phone or through some kind of iPad mechanism, both of which I will demonstrate in a moment, you can engage better with volunteers, particularly nowadays, younger, older, middle-aged, everybody's out there with a smartphone. You got an iPhone, you got an Android, you do everything in your life on your phone. Why can't you volunteer? Why can't you manage your volunteering assignments? Why can't you sign up? Why can't you cancel? Those are the kinds of things you could do with V4S Mobile. Given that, from an organizational perspective, you save money. You have to save money. I mean, right now, if you look at V4S, which is, has this wonderful model of campaigns followed by jobs, then shifts, that's all great, except all the data comes in online. And when it comes in, you need to go through some kind of reconciliation. You need to say, okay, somebody keyed in 4 hours. Was he or she really there? Somebody made a mistake and keyed in 48 hours. How do you deal with that? There's a variety of tasks that you need to do as an administrator to deal with that data entry. And we're saying you don't need to. You can manage most of that just because the volunteer himself or herself is putting in his or her data on the phone, checking in, checking out. It's a very simple process. We'll walk through that, but that really saves you money. And most importantly, grow impact. How do you grow impact, especially for volunteering organizations? You grow impact by getting your volunteers together, by bringing in new volunteers, by improving interaction with existing volunteers, giving existing volunteers tools to be more effective. And we believe V4S Mobile is out there leading the pack, being able to make volunteers more effective. And that's how you grow impact. Given that, what is V4S Mobile? V4S Mobile comes in two modes or versions. One is a V4S personal version, which is something you install on your phone and do a bunch of things on it, which I'll step you through right now. And V4S Kiosk is really on devices that maybe your nonprofit owns. It's a common device at a front desk or at a warehouse that multiple people can use to check in and check out. You could use the same thing to register new volunteers, even sign up existing volunteers for existing jobs and shifts really. And let's talk about that right now. How does this work? My next slide is really about installation. So before I go there, let's go back and look at how this works. What I have in my hand out here, this, I hope you see my screen. Anybody not able to see my phone? Okay, if nobody responds, I'll assume you see my phone. All right. What you can see is a series of jobs. This is a mobile phone app. It's actually on my phone in my hand. And the app is very, very simple. It has a bunch of things. It has a way to check in. It has a way to look at jobs. It has a way to modify, update my profile, and some settings. Let's start with the jobs. What I have here is a list of jobs that comes from Salesforce. Now that Salesforce jobs, let me go look, is actually available in Salesforce somewhere. We'll go look at the jobs themselves, and I will come back to that in a moment. But along the way, let's get back to the phone. Oops, sorry, wrong screen. All right, there's the phone. Let's take a look at some of these. The first two, office maintenance and office administration, don't have shifts. I know that because I set up the data. So we'll skip that for a moment. Let's go look at front office administration. Now, when I click on that, it gives me some detail about the job itself and the shifts that are available on that job. Now, these are standard V4S shifts. They have been created either through a recurring job, a recurring task, or manually by someone keying in this data. And it's showing you, if you look at the first one, it's saying 10:30 p.m. for 4 hours. Now, 10:30 p.m. in my time zone. I'm in the India time zone, so it's starting in an hour. And if I'm in for that, I can click on this, the I'm in button, and I can sign up. I'll do that in a moment. But you scroll down, it shows you shifts going forward. It also shows you older shifts in case you want to remember, hey, what did I do on the 26th of September last year? You can actually go back and say, oh, yeah, I was on shift 00056. So that's one set of shifts related to this job. There's another job. Let's take a look at soup kitchen duty. That has a shift today, starting pretty soon. And I've actually signed up for a couple of those, right? And I realized, hey, 4 o'clock, I'm not going to make it, man. Let me go cancel that, okay? It's going to come back and say, are you sure you want to cancel? Yeah, I want to cancel. Let's go click on cancel. You'll go back and refresh the screen. And when it comes back, it'll cancel me out. When it happens, in a moment, given my network, it'll actually come back and show me that. Now, there are a bunch of other things. Let's take a look at office administration, which I told you doesn't have a shift. You can actually sign up for a job without a shift too, because all that I'm doing is at the back end, we're going and creating the volunteer hours record. So I could go and say, yeah, I'm in. I'm really just one person, but I will be there not on the 17th of January, but on the 23rd of January. Remember, this is a job without a shift. So I can pick a date. I can go back and say, okay, on the 23rd, I will be there at 10:30 in the morning. Done. And click OK. That's going to sign me up. It says down below, signing up on volunteers. It'll come back and say done. That's it. Right? Unfortunately, because I don't have a shift, it doesn't show me my sign up on this screen. In fact, I have a question for you guys further down the line about that specific thing. Does it make sense to actually show hours on this page if shifts don't exist? But that's okay. We'll come back to that. All right, moving on. What else can I do? Just very simple things. I can go maintain my own profile. So I can pull up details about myself. This comes from the contact record, and we have set up some interesting pieces of information there. I can go through all that, modify this, save it. I can do all of that myself. But most importantly, once I have a job starting or a shift starting in the next 4 hours, that's important. If there's a shift starting in the next 4 hours, I can go click on the check-in menu option, and it brings up this cute little face. And all that I do is I swipe right. And I swipe right, I'm checked in. It says checked in. Now, I go do what I want to do, put my phone in my pocket, do all my work, come back. When I'm done, I can actually go look at other jobs, I can update my profile, all that wonderful stuff. Whole lot of jobs out here. And I come back and check out. If you notice, it says check out there. I come back and check out. It says I checked in, I don't know, 10 seconds ago. and I will check out. I'm done. That's it. When I start the job, I check in. When I'm done, I check out. That's all I do as a volunteer. And I do all that on my phone. And all that data winds up in Salesforce. Let's go look at that. There's the Salesforce screen. This is showing, if you notice, California time. My phone is showing India time right here. Right there. Oops, sorry. Too many windows. All right, right that one. If you look at this one, I checked out at 9:40. It's saying 8:10 a.m. because it's 8:10 a.m. in the Pacific time zone, whereas in India it's 9:40 at night. So that's it. As far as the personal app goes, very simple. You go find a job that you want to sign up for. You can, there are what you did on this screen was really signing up for the job. And then what you did on the check-in screen was checking into the job. And that's the typical process in Volunteers for Salesforce. We just reflect that in here. There are a couple of other things you could do. You can go back and actually, there's a little way to filter data. You can click on this filter icon up here. You can search by keyword, or you can say, show me only the jobs that have volunteers, that need volunteers, jobs that I have accepted, or maybe even a search word, okay? So I can actually go do a search keyword. It'll actually give me a job that has the keyword. So simple things that make life a little easier for the volunteer. That's what V4S Personal is all about. Moving on, let me take a look at V4S on the iPad. Let me minimize this window, take that away. Okay, bringing on the iPad. This will take me a moment because I have to do this wonderful AirPlay thing. And once I do that, you will actually see my iPad on this screen. There we are. All right, that was simple. Okay. What we have here is really the same data, except presented slightly differently. If you look at the first element, the first item in there, it says Soup Kitchen Duty, breakfast room. In the handset, it showed the job name, which was Soup Kitchen Duty, and the shift showed up after you clicked on job. Here, the use case we assume is where people walk into a particular location, or there's a manager, there's a volunteer coordinator who's handling tasks. So he or she is really interested in this particular shift that comes up now. So that's what we're looking at here. So what do? I go click on that. And when I click on that, it takes a moment. It loads up everybody who is already confirmed for the shift. Now, it's possible that there are people who have not confirmed. You can go add them. People who are already in your database but haven't confirmed to be there for this particular job or shift. If they just walk in, you can add them there. You can also go back and add someone who's never been to your facility, and we can do your volunteering gig, and I'll show you that in a moment. The screen looks ugly, but we'll deal with that. But when somebody comes in, okay, George walked in. All that George does is he clicks on the check-in button. And when he clicks on the check-in button, there, he checked in. It shows checked in at 8:14 a.m. If you'll notice, we've set this iPad on California time. So it's showing 8:14, whereas my phone is on India time. And it still shows 9:44 or whatever it's supposed to show, right? That's primarily because their time zones are being dealt with in the system. That's about it, right? Anyway, so let's go back to the iPad. There's my iPad, and I can scroll up, scroll on. Everybody's who I can check in, check out. When I'm done, George is done. George comes in here, walks up, checks out. Are you sure I want to check out of this? Yeah, I want to check out. I'm done, right? I go back, and George just checked out. That's it. I go back to the list. So from an iPad general kiosk perspective, that's really it. Very, very few functions. You can do one other big thing, and that is register a brand new volunteer. Pardon the look of the screen. We're still dealing with a bunch of iPad issues. But here's really the same functionality, really the same profile screen that you will see on my profile, right? The first name, last name, email ID. Here you can actually type in the first name and go on, sign him or her up. And all the usual checkboxes, volunteer availability, whatever you have in your contact and assigned in the field group that Volunteers for Salesforce supports appears in this screen. That's really the iPad functionality. There is help, yes. There's help that shows up here, and there's help that shows up here too. And the only other thing that you will see on the handset, on the personal version, is of course some settings in terms of password, and setting a password and clearing data and so on, which we don't have on the kiosk version. You can log out in both cases so that nobody else can walk in and use your software. But that's about it. From an iPad perspective or from a mobile personal perspective, that's really the functionality. All the other magic is on the server. Let's go back here. All right. I'm just checking if somebody's saying anything. I need to follow questions and answers. Let's go back to Salesforce. In Salesforce, all this data has been collected. There's a nice little dashboard. It shows you, there's a leaderboard that you can see. You can go back and look at who's signed in. These are what are called app keys. There are different configurations. You could actually have multiple groups of volunteers with slightly different configurations, in the way the app looks, maybe in the way the data is rolled up. We'll talk about it in a moment. There's information about stats by week, new volunteer registrations, hours worked, count by status, all some wonderful things that you'll have on the dashboard. There are also a bunch of reports. We probably have 22 reports here. One report that you might be interested in is volunteers currently checked in. I don't know how the lightning slow. We'll come back to this. There's also the timesheet detail itself. Here's where every single check-in and check-out actually shows up. Let's go refresh that. I think I didn't do another check-in, so that's really the last record in there. There's another one. Okay. Supervision duty, George Boyd, right? That's because I checked in on the iPad. There's the check-in and check-out time. Again, just a few seconds, just a minute from one to the other. So all this data is available in Salesforce, and it's an object that is one step below the shift. I'll come to that in a moment. Well, let's go there right now. Let's go look at it. If you look at V4S Personal, like I said, we walked through the personal app. We walked through the kiosk app. What do you need to do to make this happen for yourself, for your own org? You need to go install our app into App Exchange. If you pull it from App Exchange into your org, you can go look for it as V4S Mobile, and that'll set you up. That'll send you and that'll email you what is called an app key, which is an 8-character string that you need to tell your users to use the first time they install. And they'll install that on their phones or on the kiosk. When they install it, they'll need that string, and they'll need the email ID that you have registered for them in your contact record. That's it. They can set up a password, and they're off and running on their personal phones. And with just the app key, you're off and running on the kiosk. That's really the extent of V4S Mobile as an app. What does it do in terms of data model? I don't know how good this screen looks, but there's the familiar volunteer hours object, the volunteer shift object, and the volunteer job object that ties back to hours and shift together. What we've added is really just one major object called the timesheet detail. Our authentication happens through the V4S Mobile user object, which again is just keeps track of who's signed up, who's signing in, who's signing out, so on and so forth. And there is a timesheet header object, which we don't show in this screen primarily because not a lot of people use that. You would use that if you want to tie it into, integrate it into a different system, maybe make a weekly timesheet for every volunteer, so on and so forth. If you need to do that, then there's a task that we can set up that will roll up every detail weekly into the header, and you can run reports off of that. The one point I wanted to make was the timesheet detail. The hours on the timesheet detail get automatically rolled up into the related volunteer hours record. So you really don't have to do any of the reconciliation of data at all. It happens automatically. So that's kind of a big time saving right there. How do we make this happen? There's not a lot of magic. Primarily, there are three pieces to this puzzle. There is a mobile app that I showed you. There is Salesforce, and all your data is in Salesforce. Your configurations are in Salesforce. Pretty much everything is in Salesforce. We have an intermediary integrator server called the DevPlease server, and that pulls and pushes data between your mobile phone and Salesforce. I bring this up for a specific reason. The way, I've talked to a lot of people who do V4S Mobile, V4S, and they've customized it like crazy. So they've had questions like, I have this custom field on my job. Can I show that on your handset instead of maybe the job name or shift name or shift number or whatever? Yeah, you can do all of that. You can do all of that because all that configuration happens here. We store the configuration here, pull it back into Deftly, and actually run the queries from here. The SOQL is, for people who have dealt with SOQL, the SOQL is generated here and pushed and pulled, and data is pushed and pulled back. So that's what gives us, because we're in here, we can do a lot of configuration, we can do a lot of customization as we go forward. Now, what exactly do we configure? What exactly do we customize? I'm going to leave that as a question in the mind of the reader. I'm hoping some of you will tell me, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. We've heard lots of different questions. I think we've addressed most of them already, but I'd love to hear in the Q&A in a moment what you would like to see configured. And just a very quick review of what we're looking to do going forward. Skinning and branding. We actually do some branding right now. So you can go, you can tell us, hey, I want this app to really not have this kind of logo that I showed you, right? Instead, what I want is, if you look at this logo, this is V4S Personal. I don't want this logo. I want something that really reflects my nonprofit, and everything should say my nonprofit's name and so on. Yeah, we could do that. So we could do that, but there's also some configurable skinning that we're coming up with in the next few weeks. We're including push messaging, where a volunteer coordinator or an administrator in the office can push one or more messages to a bunch of people or to everybody who's signed up straight from Salesforce, and that'll appear as a notification on your phone, and you can respond to that. We have a bunch of website pages, so it's really the same thing that you would do on the phone. It's different from the sites pages that V4S has, in the sense that you, as a volunteer, you actually log in, and you can do things on the website that you can do on the handset. That may not be of great value in the short term, but it's something on our roadmap, so I just want to throw it in there. Some organizations have asked us that, hey, it's not enough to actually do check-in and check-out. People will want to key in their own data. They will want to say, I started at so-and-so time, I'm ending at so-and-so time. So that's multi-line data entry that we're doing. We're looking to include location tracking, some degree of expense tracking, and integration with other systems further down the line. So that's really it. From an overview perspective. Questions, comments, thoughts? Pricing. All right, how's our pricing? Man, you know, the tough crowd. All right, so this is our website. Before I take you to pricing, I want to walk you through our webpage, volunteer management. It talks about what we do, both the versions, how you can get to it. This will take you to the App Exchange. This will take you to the kiosk version on Google Play. This will take you to kiosk version on App Store. You can install all that, and there is our pricing. Our pricing is based on what we call monthly active users. So if you look at V4S Personal, there is a free version, 10 MAUs, whatever. But where the pricing starts is really for 100 MAUs, which means an MAU is a monthly active user. So for let's take this number. For $600 for the year, what you're buying is 100 MAUs for 12 months, which is 1,200 monthly active users. So if as a nonprofit you have 200 registered volunteers, but there's a seasonality, and in January you have only 80 of them working, in February you have 130 of them working, and so on and so forth. As long as over a span of 12 months, you have 1,200 and no more people working, 1,200 monthly users working, that's okay. So we don't say that you can't use more than 100 in a given month, and that just doesn't make sense. So it's a flexible model. You're really buying, it's like buying 1,200 tokens, 100 tokens a month for 12 months. So you're getting 1,200 tokens. Every time somebody uses it in a month, you're using up one token. That's really the MAU model. And that's our pricing for the personal version. And kiosk version is very similar in terms of the active users, except it's devices. And up to 5 kiosk devices is the first level that you start paying for. There's a free level out there, and you can continue to use that for forever if you want to. Can the kiosk be, do volunteers have to pay on their own for the app? No. In fact, we don't expect end users to pay at all. This is a price to the nonprofit, which is using Salesforce.com. So really, you use the app exchange and you pay definitely for this many devices or this many users, and people just sign up. You just send them the app key, and they know what email they're registered with you on. They type in that, and they're registered, and they're done. And like I said, if you have 100 MAU license and there are 300 volunteers registering, that's okay, as long as only 100 of them use it on a regular basis. Can kiosk also be on an Android tablet? Yes, of course. In fact, I actually have on my phone, I have the kiosk version too. Let me see if I can find that. There's the kiosk version. Exactly the same app works there. So yes, we have the kiosk version on the Android tablets too. Although I haven't heard a lot of people using that, so I don't know what the deal is with that. Okay. What kind of configurations can we do? Like I said, the typical configurations we've heard of are for modifications to the job object, modifications to the shift object, and there's a lot of stuff people are doing internally in terms of how jobs and shifts are being generated. And that's really the kinds of configurations you can do in the middle tier. And right now, a consultant could do that for you, or typically we do that initially and then we hand it over. But the idea is over the next month or two, there are a bunch of screens that will come up within Salesforce, and where you could just do the configurations as flags yourself. Or if you have custom fields on the jobs, can those be shown on the mobile? Yes. In fact, I don't think I have an example, but let's take the case of the job list. Now, there are some of the configurations people are asking us about. This job list shows all jobs that don't have shifts, all active jobs that don't have shifts, and all jobs that have shifts from 4 hours ago going forward. So people are telling us 4 hours is too large a window or too small a window. So for a particular organization, can we set it up such that all jobs starting tomorrow and nothing before? Sure. Yeah, we can do that kind of stuff. And if you see this particular screen, this shows the job name and then the address or the city state zip really. People have told us, well, I don't really need to see city state zips here. Show me a custom field. Yeah, we could do that. Here, whatever. we could do that kind of stuff. Can we have our own filters different from what you showed? That would be tough. That would be tough. That is not a configurable element, unfortunately. It's interesting, but come back to us with questions or with some details of exactly what you want to filter by, and let's see if we can kind of roll that into the app. I haven't heard anybody ask me that before, so I'm not prepared for that question. Okay, I'm coming up on my 30 minutes. If there are no more questions, I will say goodbye here. Feel free to send me an email. My email ID is Kishore, that's Kishore, at Deftly, that's DFTLY, that's Deftly without an E.com. Send me an email. I'd love to answer questions. You guys use this. There is a trial period. Go sign up on the App Exchange. Use it for some time. Ask us questions. We'll help you make this work. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye now.